I kid you not, this is what's in the papers today, and it's making the UK look, let's be honest, a little bit like a laughingstock. Get this, the Coast Guard was forced to call upon fishing vessels to assist a yacht and kayaks that had got into trouble in the water because the Border Force vessels and the lifeboats were overloaded with the rescue of 18 migrant boats carrying 1,194 people across the Channel to the UK illegally yesterday, which is going to cost something in the region of £700,000 or £800,000 a week, rough estimate calculated by Grok, based it on the cost of the hotels and the money that they get and so on. Now, with the usual caveat that some of them are fleeing war-torn countries and they do need support. My argument against that is if they came from France, they were safe in France, they should go back to France. If anybody wants a solution to this problem, I think they should stop the benefits for these and they should return them to France. The boats would then, I suspect, stop overnight. But until then, the people that are possibly suffering are the people in our waters who are genuinely in trouble because they are too busy helping migrants cross the Channel illegally. Now, this is a record day as almost 1,200 migrants crossed the Channel. And not only that, it's the same day that they realise that foreigners are claiming £1 billion a month in benefits. Not to mention that if you play by the rules and you do everything right and you come here on a spouse visa, this is a genuine document, you will not have any recourse to public funds, even if you're here on a spouse visa, because no money for you because you follow the rules. Come here illegally, claim asylum, etc. And obviously you get support. Now, again, the usual caveat. Some people genuinely need it and some people genuinely deserve it. And we should do that as a nation, etc. And we have an international obligation to ensure people don't come to harm on the waters. I would never wish harm upon anybody. I would never wish anybody to be hateful to anybody else. But we simply cannot sustain this as a country. Because with thousands and thousands coming across, this is just concrete, hard proof. Doesn't matter whose fault it is. This is not all Starmer's fault or Labour's fault. It's obviously been going for a long time. It's been building up for a long time. But this is, however you skin it, this is a day of shame for each government that has been in control of this country, that has allowed this to get to this point, that has allowed this to continue. And we get to a point now where, far from protecting the borders, far from having secure borders, we get almost 1,200 illegal migrants crossing in a single day. Now, statistically, some of them will be absolutely in need of our support, and ergo, statistically, there will be a significant number who are simply economic migrants that think that everything is here that they need, and so they come along for everything for free. Now, this promise to quote-unquote smash the gangs obviously doesn't work because we get nice weather, they cross the Channel. This is, as quoted by Chris Philp here, says, this is a nation reduced to chaos on the high seas while Keir Starmer hides behind platitudes and process. Labour's completely lost control of our borders. And indeed, this is a day of shame for the Labour government with over 1,000 illegal migrants in a single day, boats floating in the Channel, border force stretched beyond breaking point, even fishing vessels drafted in because the Maritime Rescue Service is overwhelmed with people that shouldn't be in the waters and shouldn't be coming to the UK in the first place. I added the last bit myself. Nigel Farage obviously has jumped on board with this. Now, love him or hate him, he sort of makes a good point now and again, says, on the day that we learned that the migrant benefits cost us £1 billion a month, many hundreds are currently crossing the English Channel. Labour are ruining our country. And of course, I suppose at the time of writing that tweet, I think there was something in the region of 400 to 500, and that topped out at almost 1,200. 2 patrol aircraft, 4 of the 5 Border Force vessels, 7 French vessels, which raises a question I'll come back to in a moment, including the Bale, Normandy, Redens and a few others, warships, etc. And 2 lifeboats were deployed yesterday morning as these dinghies were carrying hundreds and almost 1,200 migrants across the Channel. The big question that's raised here is, if this included 7 French vessels, why on earth were they not then taken back to France? Even if they were in our waters at the time, and you'll get some, even some lawyers, I suspect, but certainly many humanitarian activists and so on, screaming that if they're in our waters, they need to come here. Just the other weekend, I walked through Birmingham and there was a big sign, people saying, refugees welcome here. Now, that is a view that they can perfectly entitled to adopt, and some people do take that view. Asked if they would take them into their own home, they'd probably give you a different answer. Welcome here, but not in their own home, perhaps. Welcome to your car, welcome to your bank account, your money. Possibly not, but that's the counter argument to all of that. And again, I don't mean this to be hateful. This is just spelling out the facts here. These people probably wouldn't give them their car and their house and their money, although that is happening indirectly by way of taxes, or directly, depending on how you think about it. French ministers apparently are planning to restore an offence of illegal stay in France, which would allow them to arrest the migrants and the smugglers before they attempt the crossing. They could just stop them from crossing. I mean, they don't really need anything else. I mean, if they know that they're crossing, they could just stop them from doing that. Or if they're in the waters on the way here, they could bring them back, or they could just accept them back. And if our boats are put to that effort, we could take them back and they could have them back. But obviously that's not happening so far. And in contrast to that, a completely different story. I read with interest on the BBC that parents are fined, according to Freedom of Information requests, fined almost £1 million over school absences. Now, I have my personal views on this, which my channel here is not about my personal views, because my personal views don't really count for anything. My views on the law and how the law works and explaining the law, yes. My personal views, no. I suspect some people might want my personal view. I'll give it to you in a minute. But £1 million, apparently, or 961,000 over the academic year of 2021 to 2022, with 20,500 people, parents, being fined for unauthorised absences of their children from school. Now, obviously, between the compulsory school age, they are to ensure that they receive adequate education. The one interesting thing is a lot of people don't realise that there is no law requiring them to go to school, just that they receive an education. And so if they're not registered at the school, they can have education at home, so long as they can show that it's to a suitable standard and so on. But there's no absolute, as far as I understand it, absolute definitive curriculum that they must follow, just adequate education according to their age. But if they're registered at school and they're supposed to go to school and they take them out for holidays, etc., that is an unauthorised absence without reasonable excuse, and therefore they could be fined. Do I agree with the fines? No, I don't think that's proportionate. Do I agree with them being removed from school early so that they can go on holidays that are a bit cheaper? No, I don't agree with that either, to be quite frank. I think if children are to be taught that there is a discipline and rules to follow, that they should set that up very well for them early so that they can follow the rules. If they can't follow the rules to attend at a certain time, then I think they're going to have trouble following rules later on. They'll find rules that they don't like and don't want to follow, and they'll probably not follow those. That's how a lot of people end up in the criminal justice system, but by the by. But nonetheless, that's what it is, almost £1 million a year in these fines, and that's not all yet. There's another rather interesting bit of news that I was alerted to by the Stark Naked Brief here over on X, and you can follow this account if you like. I will link it below. Former political strategist, part-time citizen journalist with investigations and so on. This brought to attention this chap who earns £427,000 salary per year, working as the chief executive of the University Hospitals Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust, Jonathan Brotherton. Now, why is he now of interest in the news? Well, it was revealed that he signed off on what's referred to as an extraordinary support session for staff to cope with the recent Supreme Court ruling in For Women Scotland, I presume, because the ruling found that the legal definition of woman is based on biological sex for the Equality Act. According to this memo, it says, "We understand that competing rights exist," which they do, to be fair, "and it is important that these are balanced. The University Hospital Birmingham is committed to fostering a safe and inclusive environment where everyone can thrive and bring their whole selves to work." But does that mean that they need to pay for extraordinary support sessions just to understand that woman in the Equality Act refers to biological sex? Now, this is not me taking a stab at trans people here. I know some trans people personally, and I know people of all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of race and faith and sexual orientation, whatever. I know all sorts of people. They all get on with me. I all get on with them. I feel sometimes the need to say that because some people criticize me for certain things. There's a really interesting story that I can tell you very soon where someone has grossly misunderstood me as a person And I will reveal all and tell you everything about that in due course, but not right now. And I will tell you that those people that I know very often don't agree with lots of these laws and rules and so on. So, for example, the trans people that I know that have written to me say they support and agree with the Supreme Court decision that woman in the Equality Act means biological sex. They agree with that, even though they are marginalized to some extent and they do find things difficult because if they are a trans woman and therefore they don't feel like they belong in the men's toilets, but obviously now, strictly speaking, a woman's toilet is now based on biological sex for women, so they can't go there either. They do feel marginalized. They do feel that it's difficult. And the final thing that I'll leave you with, which I think is really positive and rather sweet, is J.K. Rowling has said that if you donate £10 to Lumos, which is an international children's charity supporting children who are in the way of harm, she will draw 3 names out of a hat and you will have dinner. She said it could be KFC or a very nice restaurant. She'll provide travel and accommodation. She even said she'll fly you in if you're international. So check that out. Donate the £10 to Lumos if you'd like the chance of sitting down with J.K. Rowling. But I, for one, think that's a really positive way to end. So let me know what you think about any of that. Please do subscribe to the channel. That really does help my channel grow more than you know, and I really appreciate it. And with that, thank you for watching.